Hey, what's up everybody? What's going on? Remi Sovran here, back with another video today. And in today's new video, what I wanted to talk about was something a little bit different. And that is asymmetries in athletes and individuals and its relationship to performance and injury prevention. So when I'm referring to asymmetries, I'm talking about imbalances that may exist in the body, whether that's from left to right or from front to back, that we may see in certain individuals. But we would specifically see this in unilateral sports such as hockey, basketball, or baseball, where we have right-handed throwers, left-handed throwers, right-handed shooters, or left-handed shooters. And these imbalances that we see are in these unilateral sports are going to lead to certain muscles going to be more developed than others. And we're going to see different forms of stability and mobility at certain areas of the body and certain joints. And this is all going to influence one's performance and the injury prevention side of things. So one question though that I've always kind of contemplated is it a good idea to actually address these imbalances and try to make the athlete more symmetrical when we're dealing with a unilateral athlete? Or is it better to just leave the athlete alone and not so much worry about those imbalances, because they exist and they exist for a reason, and the reason being is because that's what makes that athlete good at what they do and good at their sport. So that's something I've always contemplated, and I don't know the specific answer to, because it's a bit of a 50-50 thing. Because yes, we may want to address imbalances in terms of preventing injuries, but at the same time, when we're addressing these balances, we may take away from performance. So it's kind of a question I really don't know a specific answer to, or I don't have the answer to, and it's kind of an open-minded argument, I guess you could say, where some could argue one way and some could argue against it, and some are kind of in the middle. And that's where I kind of fall right in the middle, because I don't really know the answer, and I don't really know what the best way to really approach that from my point of view. And so now going back to my experience with the Toronto Raptors and when I worked there, I was specifically introduced to a term known as default posture. And this was introduced to me by Alex McKechnie, who is the director of sport performance for the Toronto Raptors. And so he was essentially, and he still currently is, he's the head of the strength and conditioning and the head of physical therapy. So he ran both sides, but he was kind of the ultimate boss. And he was one of my bosses when I was there working. And so when he introduced me to this term, what he defined it as is a default posture is the default posture for that task or activity that an individual is engaging in. And it's essentially what makes them who they are and what makes them good as an athlete or an individual for a job. So staying on the topic of basketball, if we take a right-handed shooter, they're going to have more development on the right side of the shoulder here. So maybe their pec's going to be more developed, their deltoid's going to be more developed, and they may have more internal rotation of their shoulder. But because of that imbalance, and they're not going to have that on the same side as their left, just because they're repeatedly engaging in right-handed shots all the time. And so those imbalances are going to exist, but those imbalances are essentially what makes that athlete who they are. So instead of maybe addressing the imbalance, a better way to look at it is maybe to limit their volume. Because if they're always in that asymmetrical position, always shooting right-handed, they're going to obviously continuously stress that shoulder joint, and it's already maybe in a imbalanced position. There may be less stability at that joint. So by limiting their volume, it's another way we could look at preventing injury in a sense, instead of actually addressing that imbalance and maybe giving them a little bit more external rotation, or maybe developing the left side, or however you want to look at it and address the situation. But anyways, point being is that everyone, when we look at unilateral tasks, is going to have a default posture, a default playing position, a default playing posture for that sport. And essentially, that's what makes them good at their sport and what makes them the athlete of who they are. And maybe kind of leaving things alone in a sense is a way to approach things. Now, when you're dealing with an individual who isn't a professional athlete and is just your everyday person, maybe has shoulder issues, maybe has hip issues, and they have imbalances, then yeah, you are going to want to probably address those imbalances in order to put them in a neutral position or neutral posture for whatever kind of injury or problem that they're dealing with, in order to maybe reduce some stress on a certain joint, maybe on a spinal disc, or maybe on a certain muscles, or whatever the case may be, or maybe strengthening certain muscles that are weak, whatever the case may be. But professional athletes, different story and a different case, in my opinion. And it's not just professional athletes, it's just any athletes involved in those kind of unilateral sports in nature. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about that. I thought it was interesting. I just wanted to share with you guys because I actually just heard a recent talk about this kind of topic by Mike Reynolds, who's a physical therapist, and he kind of shared his opinion on it in terms of asymmetries, and he basically said he didn't have the answer to it as well, and he didn't really kind of have a specific answer as to what is right and what is wrong. And I don't think it's a bad thing to really not know the answer, but it's just something to kind of think about if you're looking to maybe work with athletes, or you're looking to work, or you work with people that are in a unilateral sport, or you train those type of people, maybe even if it's a job or something to consider, just something to think about. But just wanted to kind of share that, and maybe for you guys out there, maybe you train athletes, maybe you're involved with training professional athletes. We'd love to know what your opinion is when it comes to this topic, what you guys think, and what your ultimate kind of take or position is on this. I just thought it was something interesting I wanted to share with you guys, but that's just my approach, my opinion, and I specifically don't really know the answer. But anyways, that's it for this video. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or anything, love to hear them, and just leave them below and I'll be happy to answer them. And until next time, all the best and take care.